KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. Standing by is Rachel Eckroth. She's an American singer-songwriter and keyboardist, and currently the keyboardist for alternative musician St. Vincent. She's also a singer-songwriter for Rufus Wainwright, and she's been on so many other gigs, which are super cool. We're going to talk about from SNL to Meredith Vieira Show and more. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
I love how we made this work. You're in Boston right now on tour.
Yeah.
How's it going? I mean, I've been following clips on YouTube and posts and
It's going awesome. Like we just played New York City last night at Radio City Music Hall. So that was kind of a big event.
Wow.
In terms of all the gigs. Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's a big life event, but it was also just in terms of touring kind of like that high point, and then we're going to play a few more cities and some festivals, and that's it for the year. So.
Oh my gosh. When did you get this gig with St. Vincent?
It was about, I think it was in April, maybe March, but it was our first performance was SNL. So
I love that.
Yeah, it was super fun. We rehearsed for, I think, a week or a little bit more, and then went and did it, and then continued after that. So it's kind of funny that we, the first jump in was that show.
Well, your family, your friends, your husband, there was one clip where you started off, you're on keyboards, and I'm like, that is amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
So cool.
Part too.
Let me ask you, I want to back way up and ask you when you first started, becoming musical. Was it as a kid? What led you to music?
Yeah, I started pretty young. I started playing piano when I was 6. My parents were musicians. I mean, they were doing it at that time when I was really young, and they were really young. So my dad was a band teacher for a little while, and he played piano professionally. And then my mom sings and plays bass. And so there was a time when we had just moved to Phoenix. I was actually born in North Dakota, and we sort of made our way down to the desert. And my dad, I remember, he was like, "Do you want to learn piano?" Because my older brother was playing, and he still does.
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So I learned "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," and then yeah. So like, I think when I was super young like that, I was like, I kind of knew that I was going to do music. So.
Yeah, amazing. And then it just led one thing to the next, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a really sort of, I don't know if I'm going to say backwards process, but an interesting process, because I started off taking piano lessons, kind of hated it as a kid, because kids are kids. And then when I was about 16, I started really getting into jazz, and I loved the improvisation and the harmony and learning all about that stuff. And so I started doing that and started writing. And then I kind of went on a jazz direction, and got my master's at Rutgers. And
I saw that.
Yeah. And so I did like a whole thing that way. And then I started songwriting when I was 30. So, 15 years into it, I was like, I also sing. So let me write my own songs. And it took me in another direction for a little while. And I was songwriting and kind of learning a different craft. And meanwhile, like that whole time I was playing synths and keyboards and bands. So
cool.
I've kind of been all over the place.
But I feel like jazz is an incredible foundation for so many different types of music.
I mean, it definitely gives you like a really broad sense of what could happen harmonically and, musically and compositionally. So yeah, it kind of prepares you to be able to understand a lot of other stuff. So there's that. Yeah.
That's cool. And then how did you get your gigs with, let's say, Rufus Wainwright, get on different shows, things like that?
So I produced, or I put out a record called When It Falls that my husband, Tim Lefebvre, produced. And he had a guitarist named Jerry Leonard and a bunch of other people. But this guitarist, Jerry, who had played with David Bowie, so there was the connection there because Tim played with Bowie. he was on the album, and he recommended me to Rufus because he was going to be Rufus's music director. So for that tour.
Okay.
So they were looking for somebody that could play in the band and also open. So I was their keyboard player, but I was also the opener. So I did a solo set out front every night.
Amazing. How did you, personal question, how did you meet your husband? I mean, was it on a gig, or how would that happen?
It was through friends, really. I had heard his name while I was living in New York a bunch, and I never bothered to go check him out. And
that
I
must
actually
make him feel really good.
I know. It's like, oh, man, I don't want to see you. No, and actually I met his brother first through a friend, and they were like, oh, do you know Tim, his brother? I was like,
yeah.
Oh, no, I know that name though. And I remembered that moment. And then fast forward like 8, 9, 10 years or something like that. Then I met Tim on his gig in LA. I was just visiting, and I saw him, and we met, and then kind of kept in touch. And then we didn't date until maybe a year and a half or 2 years later after that.
Cool.
And then,
That's
yeah,
cool.
so it's like kind of through friends, through the music scene.
Music is such a powerful outlet. I know this a little bit because I studied with a guitar teacher who went to Berkeley. I lived in Boston for years.
Right.
And I took lessons with him for 9 years. I had picked up guitar when I was 10 and then dropped it. And then, you know, as a kid, I was doing other things, but I always wanted to go back to it. And I remember taking lessons, and it's such a great thing to do, especially when you're going through a hard time. Have you felt like that before?
I can say music has always been there for me when other things weren't.
Yeah.
But it's a healing thing, you know, like sometimes I'll be in a place where I need some kind of other love or whatever. And so sometimes just playing the piano does it for me. Sometimes writing does it for me.
Yeah.
I'm just listening to other music does it for me. So yeah, it's definitely a good support, you know, for everybody.
I was going to say it's an interesting thing, especially right now in the pandemic. I can relate to what you just said. Like sometimes I'm feeling something, like I know I need to be alone, but I need something for my soul. And I need to go be alone and plug in my guitar and maybe just work on a mode, you know, or whatever, or make something up or work on a song. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it kind of takes me on this mental vacation.
Yeah. And I think the creativity behind it is like, it's very nurturing, you know, like just be, you know, even if you're sitting there, like not with no intention of like making the best song ever, and you're just kind of messing around and hearing a sound and whatever.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's inspiring. So it can make you feel good.
Right. I was literally like improvising on a Mixolydian mode. I was trying to learn the modes in the pandemic, and I'm like, okay, I like the Mixolydian. and I was just like improvising, and my daughter was like, wow, what is that? And you know, it's just what I was feeling. You know?
For sure. Yeah.
So tell me about your other gigs. You know, you played on different shows. You know, how does all that happen for people that are watching that are musicians?
Yeah, I guess I started young, you know, in my late teens, I guess, being a sideman. So that just means being in bands that are hiring people around town or whatever.
Yeah.
So I started off kind of doing like little jazz things, but then I moved on to I lived in Las Vegas for my undergrad. So I played on the Strip in pop bands and R&B bands and stuff. So you learn songs, you know, you learn a bunch of songs, you learn how to play keyboards or whatever instrument you're doing, and you learn the rules of gigging, you know, and then just word of mouth, and, you know, the more people you know and the more connections you make and along the way, and, you know, if someone calls, you're like, oh, I need somebody that knows how to do these things. And, you know, so I spent a lot of time younger, like really working on different styles of music so that I could do those kind of jobs.
That's great.
And then eventually I started touring a little bit. I ended up getting on that TV show in New York for a couple of years, and it's all connections, and it's all also making yourself useful. Like,
Right.
you know, if you want to do that thing, first learn how to do it. You know, it's not
Right.
going to come to you if you
Exactly.
don't know what it is, you know, what you're supposed to do.
Well, when I was reading your bio, you have a lot of different hats you wear. You have a lot of different skill sets, and it sounds like that comes in very handy.
Yeah, yeah, same thing. You know, I sing, I produce, I write, I arrange, I play
Mhm.
keyboards, I play piano. I don't know what else, some other stuff probably. But yeah, but you know, definitely took the time to try a lot of things and
Mhm.
luckily get good at many things. You know,
That's amazing. Do you feel like all of this talent, a lot of it, it sounds like, is some genetics, or it's just something that was nurtured? I mean, hard to say.
it's definitely both. Like my dad's side of the family, they were were and are a bunch of music teachers.
Oh, yeah.
So, and my grandfather had a band. He played accordion, and he
Oh,
had a
cool.
dance band in the, you know, 50s
Hmm.
and 60s, I guess. And yeah, so it's definitely that. My mom's side is a bit musical, but she still plays to this day. So,
That's awesome.
so yeah, and then definitely nurture, because me and my siblings, I have three others. We were all playing piano and in band and choir growing up.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
How did you get the gig with Annie? How did you meet?
It was kind of through my husband. He's on a text thread with a bunch of bass players, and there was one that came through, you know, one question from Justin Meldal Johnson, who is our bass player on
Hmm.
Annie's gig. Um, he's like, does anyone know a female that can play clavinet and whirly and like the vintage synths? And, you know, and my name popped up a bunch of times. So I was like, yeah, it's a perfect gig for me because I love playing those instruments.
Could you talk about those? I'm not that familiar with them. I know a little bit about them.
Yeah, so there's so many different kinds of keyboard instruments. You know, there's a basic piano, and then there's
Mhm.
electromechanical instruments, which are sort of what I'm talking about. So the Wurlitzer kind of acts sort of like a piano in a way.
Okay.
It sort of has like a mechanism inside that will pluck the note, and then the clavinet, same thing. It's a percussive keyboard instrument. Like Stevie Wonder played the clavinet.
Oh, okay.
Um, who am I thinking of? Donny Hathaway played the Wurlitzer. You
Hmm.
know, and then I play a couple digital synthesizers that are meant to sound vintage on this gig.
Cool.
But you know, if I had my way, I would have the real deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's those kinds, and then there's just like analog synths, which are
Hmm.
very hands-on, knobs, intuitive, you know, buttons
Yes.
and sliders and things. So
What is the one that Annie plays? I saw a gig last night, where she'd go to the front of the stage, and it was like a smaller synthesizer, I think, or
was it White?
yes.
Because there's two things she has on stage. She has a slide guitar, which she was playing with her microphone. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And then she has the theremin, which is a little
Oh,
electronic box. That one is made by Moog.
okay.
So
Oh,
it
the theremin.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on where you put your hands.
Thing is
So
wild.
it's like a electrical current
Wow.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The history of that is just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's insane. And the people that can actually master it are awesome. And
Yeah.
I ordered one. So it's gonna be in the mail when I get home. So I have
That's cool.
a new thing to learn.
Oh my gosh. I looked up the history of that, and
Uh,
I remember seeing this older woman doing it.
yeah,
The like
Clara
serious.
Rockmore
That
probably.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She's like one of the best. So
Is
yeah,
she still
it's
alive?
so beautiful. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's a beautiful, it sounds like a voice sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. It sounds like, now, doesn't Annie have a jazz background as well? Because Tuck and Patty are not
Yeah, you
jazz.
know what? She kind of does. She actually
Okay.
surprisingly knows a lot of songs, a lot of jazz songs for somebody who doesn't do it for a
Yeah.
living. But yeah, Tuck and Patty are her aunt and uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she used to be like tour manager for them when she was super young,
Yeah.
18
Oh,
or 19 or
cute.
something. I
Yeah.
know, it's so cool. So she got her tour chops early. But yeah, and she did go to Berkeley for like a year, something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. She
Yeah.
was showing, she's like, I know the seventh and the 13th.
Mm.
Um, but it's really cool. I love her music. It's so creative, beyond creative. I love different pedals she uses. It's the songs are great. They're just so,
Yeah, she has this sort of like really cool angular sense,
yeah,
but mixed with like beauty, sonic beauty and harmonic beauty. Like she kind of moves in places that are not typical of a lot of
right.
alternative pop music or whatever. And but what's cool about this tour is that everything is live. So there's no tracks, there's no Pro Tools being used.
Great.
We're playing everything, and it's so great to play with musicians that are like listening to each other really hard on stage, and we're like
Mm-hmm.
trying to really just make the songs be musical,
Yeah.
which sounds crazy to say out loud because that's how it should be. But, a lot of times it's easy to kind of get in a rut or like just, maybe the musicians don't gel as much on a tour or something. But
Right.
this tour has been really good for that.
Well, I love it's a visual performance too. Let's face it. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
love the backup singers, and I mean, she always has these different styles. The way the show opens, it's really great. I mean, I was watching Cheerleader. I think you guys
Yeah.
did that last night.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the premise behind the set and the set design was that she had gone to Disneyland for the first time and saw It's a Small World, the ride, which is like a
Yeah.
really kind of trippy little ride.
Right.
So that was like kind of the premise behind what the design is on stage and all the like,
Okay.
little moving parts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most creative thing I've ever seen, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
when you really look at artists, she's always like creating, reinventing.
Hmm.
It's very inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I noticed about her, and I told her this, is that like basically when she puts on that wig, because now she wears a blonde wig,
Yes.
and the boots that she wears on stage, and
Yeah.
she like literally becomes that character. It's very cool to watch because she's really cool and normal in real life.
Yeah.
And she puts that on and it's like a whole other level of like badass.
All right. I feel like I'm in the 60s.
Yeah.
It is badass. It's so cool. And she's got a gorgeous voice. But you have a gorgeous voice too,
Thank you.
which leads me to my next question. Your new album, The Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. How did that come about?
So I've been doing a lot of stuff with my husband, and obviously during COVID lockdown, we were making a lot of music together. So we had a Patreon page where we were just kind of doing improvisations and a lot of other things, but we would set up all our synths and whatever gear, all kinds of different gear every time, and just improvise like from beat one, no preconceptions. So
Okay.
so Rainy Days Records they took notice, and Tim has worked with them before. They're a label out of Russia. And so Eugene from that label approached us and said, "Oh, can you do a record that's kind of like in this world?"
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, "Of course we can." And then so I started writing, and we came up with actual songs and stuff like that, and songs with those sounds in mind.
Sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
we went and recorded in Texas with the drummer, Christian Newman, and then added the other parts on top after the fact, and this amazing engineer, Jason Kingsland, he basically tweaked out a lot of stuff after the fact, after we
Mm-hmm.
recorded. So there's a lot of like really trippy stuff. If you put your headphones in and listen, you're going to hear all
Nice.
kinds of fun things happening. So that's like basically what happened. So and it's going well. I'm happy to say like the PR and the whole team has put it out there, and people are responding well to it. So
That's awesome. It must feel it's so different having music come out in a pandemic, isn't it?
yeah, it's hard for me to say that because I mean it is, I think, because there was so much coming out. we could say that. There was so much that there was like too much.
Okay.
This time around, I had a label though. The other records I dropped have been on my own. So
Okay.
it's different for me in that way that I have like a lot of support behind it now.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. But also like we made so much music during the pandemic. I can't even believe it.
It sounds like it.
You know, we were making for over a year, we made one of those improvisation videos a week.
Whoa.
Not to mention I was doing a performance of my own a week. Tim was doing lessons. He was doing like pedal demos. We were writing a song a week, like a produced song a week for that too. So it was a lot. We look back and we're like, oh my God, why?
That is a lot.
Yeah.
And you still love each other.
Yeah. Can't believe it.
I mean, because some people
out.
might be like, you know.
Yeah.
That's great.
We were in close quarters, so
yeah,
it was okay though.
Where do you live? What state do you live?
I live in Tucson.
Okay.
I live in Tucson. Yeah, we moved from LA.
You did
right after COVID hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tucson is where I'm from. Phoenix originally. Tucson is where I went to school for a year, so I kind of knew the area.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you probably felt like you had to get out of LA. It was really shuttered.
It was, it was kind of like there was nothing going on,
right?
Know? And we cut our bills in half, so that was awesome.
Yeah. Right. You know, and you had to keep going. You guys are creative, you know, and I don't think it was the place to be for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know a lot of people made that exodus, and some people went back already, but I don't know. We don't know yet what's going to happen.
And look, you're on tour, so
I know, it's great. Yeah, and he's working. He's flying all over the place doing stuff. So
nice. And then at the end of the tour with St. Vincent, don't you have your own tour going on, right? For the Garden?
We're starting to book it. Yeah. So I have Phoenix on December 4th at the Nash, and then December 9th at Sam First in LA. So these are both jazz clubs, and working on booking some East Coast stuff at the very end of the year.
Oh, good.
So yeah.
Just in time for the snow.
Just in time to be really, really cold.
Yeah.
My favorite thing.
Wow. So right now you're in Boston. Mm-hmm. Where's your gig tomorrow?
Tomorrow at the Wang Theater.
Okay, I know what that is.
Yeah. So we're on at 9:00, and there's a comedian opening the show named Ali Makovsky, and it's a party. So anybody who wants to come should.
What's it been like performing? I mean, are people just like cutting loose because we've been so, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, her crowd is super like hyped up anyway, but you know, it feels really good just to have that applause again.
Yeah.
People. You know? Yeah. And just to see people close. I mean, a lot of the concerts are mostly masked. There's been a few places, I think some outdoor venues where the masks weren't really there.
Sure.
But the people are packed in tight. So, and I mean, that's a good and a bad thing, but it's great just to see people together, you know.
Yeah, I know, smiling, singing along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good. The front row of her shows is usually so insane because the people in the front are like die hard.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you see people crying.
Oh.
Sometimes they're like singing all the words. The other day I saw a woman just going like this.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but it looked like she was just in awe. So.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So where can people find out more about you?
So you can go to my website. It's rachelecroth.com.
Okay.
You know, or just a little Google is always helpful. I have some YouTube videos. My record, The Garden, is on Rainy Days Records, and it's actually like you can get a hard copy and vinyl on the Bandcamp page for Rainy Days Records. Otherwise, it's like digitally everywhere. And I do have a special surprise EP coming in December, which is like the rest of that session when we completely improvised everything. So
nice.
There's some more music coming in December, which I'm excited about. So I'm kind of all over the internet. Don't search too hard, but I'm there.
Do people ever approach you for like lessons? Do you ever?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah, I have obviously I'm on the road now, so I'm not doing it, but I have a site called Play Keyboards Tucson. Or you can go to my website and connect to it. But and then usually I'll have some spots available in the month. The other place to go is called lessonslive.com.
Okay.
Which my brother created, my little brother created. He's like
lessonslive.com.
There's a whole bunch of teachers on there.
Is that strictly keyboards, piano?
No, it's everything.
Oh.
Let me just double check here and make sure I said the right. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Lessons.live.
Oh, lessons.live.
Right.
Show blog.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to add it to the show blog.
Yeah, lessons.live. There's a whole bunch of teachers on, like really great world-class teachers on there that probably have some availabilities for teaching. So,
and I feel like this has been a great time for people to throw themselves into music, even if they've never played or if they used to play. It's such a healing, feel-good outlet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the way to go.
Yeah. One last question. So this show is called Get the Funk Out. And I love hearing stories about, or maybe advice you'd give someone who's maybe stuck creatively. Like, are there things you have done to kind of shift your thoughts and, come up with more creative ideas or get out of your funk or whatever?
So many techniques, right? So one thing is like literally like walking away and just like going outside, getting fresh air. Like if you're feeling like you can't write or something, just go do something else.
Yes.
Until you can. One thing I like to do is just like check out artists that I don't know and see what inspires me. So there's that. I exercise a lot. I don't know. Some people find that to be like a way to clear your mind.
Definitely.
But like, let's see, if you want to get like really specific, here's something specific. Sometimes I sit down at the piano and just like put my hands down without thinking about it in advance. And then that's like, oh, housekeeping's here. Come back tomorrow. Sorry, what? Thank you.
Or in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I arrived like 2 hours ago. So.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll just put my hands down and just find some sounds.
Yeah.
And just mess around and don't think of where you have to be or where you want to go musically. Just start.
I think that could apply to anything like guitar. If you're kind of struggling, just sit there and see where it leads you.
Yeah, any kind of art, I think, is like you can take it slower. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about this tour you're on?
The St. Vincent tour?
Yeah.
It's called, you can go to her website, ilovestvincent.com.
Okay.
Or just Google her name.
And on YouTube, there's clips of the recent gigs.
Yeah, there's actually a ton. There's a few concerts, like full concerts, and a lot of clips.
Nice.
And what else? Yeah, I think if you just we have about 6 shows left on this tour, so it's not a lot, but
okay,
there'll be some next year too.
Oh, good. I'd love to come to one.
Yeah. I think we're doing West Coast, so.
Oh, good. Yeah. Excellent. So sometime in 2022.
Yeah, I think springtime.
Okay.
Exactly. But...
All right, I'm going to look for it.
Great.
I want to thank you so much, Rachel. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
Absolutely.